Take two. Boop, boop, boop. All right, guys, go ahead and give me a little testing.
Boop, boop, boop.
Boop,
Testing.
boop, boop. Beautiful. All right, we're good to go. We're good to go. We're good to go.
Boop, boop, maggots.
Boop, 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 maggots. 10 minutes late, but here we are. All right, guys, let's try this again.
Damn updates! Oh.
I apologize. Your host is technologically inept, and so occasionally we run into hiccups, so to speak. Yeah, we got that smoothed out though. All right, tonight we are here with some super lovely peeps. I've got a handful of extraordinary DMs. Well, actually, Spankster, I haven't seen you DM yet, but I'm just gonna assume.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
And we have our favorite player, Jade Reclaimer. What are we calling you tonight?
Shade's fine.
Shade. We've got the lovely Shade back in again to give us that player POV. And yeah, we're gonna do what we always do, and we're gonna go around the room. We're gonna say how long we've been playing and or DMing, and say who we are. Artificer.
I am the artificer. No. Let's see. How long have I been playing? Forever. Longer than most people watching the stream have been alive, probably. You never know. Could be a couple old people out there. Anyway, yes. But yeah, been playing forever.
Forever. Do you guys hear that? Forever. All right, excellent. Shade.
For forever also, except forever minus like 20 years, because Artificer's 10 million years old. Let's say like 20 plus years. I don't want to date myself.
No, you married yourself in a campaign.
Yeah, that's true.
That's weird.
It's not as weird as you think.
It's not. It's probably pretty common.
I mean, okay.
I made an alternate character, right? That was the first character's wife. And then I ended up playing. So that was supposed to be a background character that came around and was like an antagonist. And I left it in the story as that. And then I was just like, I don't really want to play rogue anymore. I want to play a paladin.
Got it.
All right.
That's fair. The beautiful voices are heard. Excellent. Thank you, Billy. All right.
I'm gonna explain that every stream, I think.
I'm gonna call it most streams, probably.
Yeah.
Spankster, regale us.
Oh gosh. I probably playing and DMing for about as long as Artificer. It's been over 20 years.
45 years.
I was around for
7.
when
47.
3rd edition first
Get
came
it right.
out. So, and I've been DMing for probably as long as I've been playing, minus a year. So it didn't take very long to jump into DMing because oftentimes if you want to find a group, you got to be the one to DM. So, and then I've been doing that ever since. That's why it's been kind of fun to play in the community games because I don't get to play very often anymore.
Screw you, Billy. Awesome, Spankster. So just a caveat. Artificer's been playing D&D for 47 years.
Okay, he's got 5 years on me then.
Damn, son.
Yeah.
Holy fuck.
We're in here. We're in here with some ancient dragons.
Yeah.
And that's, you know what though? I could not ask for more in my stream. The wealth of experience that like just the three of you bring to the table is astounding. Diego, let's get us little younglings in here.
Yeah, now I feel stupid. I've been playing for 6 years now, I think. And I got into D&D through like a podcast that I heard about, and I really liked it. And
is it Critical Role?
No, it was Adventure Zone.
Okay. All right.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was a really fun one. So I heard about the game. I kind of like saw how they were playing and how much fun they were having, and I was like, man, me and my friends should do this. So freshman year of college, I started DMing, for me and my fellow rugby teammates, and they got into it. Surprisingly, they were very patient with me as I was learning how to DM from literally not knowing a single person who had ever played.
That's fantastic, man.
That's awesome.
But yeah, since then it's been a good journey. Been doing, I'd say I've DM'd more than I've played, but I think I've gotten a pretty good amount of both.
Nice. And then you've got me, the little hatchling in here. I'd say you're a youngling then, Mr. Diego. I've been playing for just over a year. And I have the audacity to bring these magnificent beings together for this chat. I'm a baby. I'm a little baby when it comes to D&D. I started in May of 2020. I was born, or April of 2020, the end of April. I was born into the digital age, the COVID era of.
Wow.
One of my buddies offered to DM for me, and he's a real smart fellow because he was like, "I know you're gonna love it, and then I figure you'll probably DM." And he told me that after he DM'd for me, and I was like, "Okay, so I'm gonna do this now." Mr. Berry Boy Diego was actually one of the players in my very first campaign I ran, and it went like 9 months. Then I started my second one, which we're playing through right now. But yeah, I bow to your greatness, ladies and gentlemen. So, with all that being said, I don't know where I get off having as strong opinions as I do on this topic, but boy, do I. Fudging dice rolls is our hot topic tonight. I'm probably gonna rant a lot, forewarning, and so that means I'm not gonna go first.
I'll go last.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I'm really interested in what you have to say, and I was gonna have you go first.
Nope. I will go last.
I'll go first.
All right. So first off, let's see who asked questions. I love that you were the only one that asked questions, Diego.
Somebody had to I was like, come on, guys.
No, nobody wanted to touch it. Let's start with what is fudging a dice roll? Fudging a dice roll is when a DM privately rolls. They roll behind their DM screen, and then for whatever reason they deem necessary, they alter the roll. I already want to start ranting, and I'm gonna push that feeling down just really deep down in me. I want to also start this off by saying, hey, if you have fun and your table has fun, okay, whatever. But there's also a caveat there too. So I'm just gonna pass this off. Let's get general opinions first. I don't know how to start this. The feelings are bubbling.
Yeah, I
up.
mean, I don't think there's really an easy way to start it, right? Like, I think you just kind of rip off the Band-Aid and go.
Yeah, let's do it. Mr. Spankster, how do you feel about fudging rolls?
Well, I would like to say too, just kind of like your little caveat. I think that, if at your table it's what flies, if it's at your table it's what doesn't. As long as you and the players all know what the expectations are and everyone's cool with it,
that's
whatever.
The caveat. That's the caveat, though. Do you sit down session 0 and go, "Hey, players, I'm gonna be fudging rolls to enhance fun"? I guarantee you that 99.9% of these DMs that fudge rolls don't fucking do that. So there's no transparency. All right, sorry.
Okay, no. That's a really good point. That's a very, very okay. So let me just start out by saying, like,
feelings.
While I'm not a fan of constantly fudging rolls, right? Because if that's the case, just don't roll. Just be like, oh, the monster hits. Oh, you right? Like, but I will say I have over, the course of 20 years or whatever, fudged a roll a couple of different times. And the reason why I did so, one was selfish. As a DM is because I'd spent a lot of time preparing some different story arcs and some things, and they were just going to fucking die. And I was like, well, I put in all this time and effort. I don't want to redo that. Right. Which I know is a selfish motivation, but whatever. I was really busy. The second time was it was during combat. And they'd spent probably 2 hours, I want to say, coming up with like a strategy and doing whatever, because they were assaulting this castle and they were doing, and the die rolls right from the beginning just were not in their favor. And so there was one time, and this is what I didn't actually fudge whether the die roll hit or didn't. My group, we run with crit tables, right? So if you roll a 20, or if you roll a 1, it's on either end. So and then you roll again, and depending on what you roll on a d20, that's what happens then. And like half of it, it's like from so if you hit, let's say you crit, you roll a 20, you roll again. If you roll a 1 through a 10, it's just a normal crit, and then it goes up from there. So the big bad hit them, and he critted them, and then I rolled another 20 on the crit table, and I fudged that one and said, okay, it's just a normal crit. So I wouldn't really consider that game breaking. That to me is like, hey, they had this brilliant plan that they actually put a lot of time in, and the dice just shit on them. And I mean, and that was in the same round that a couple of them had rolled 1s, and I mean, it would have decimated the whole party, and it would honestly, it would have left a sour taste in the mouth of all of them if it had gone that poorly. And so at that point, I was like, all right, I'm not gonna, decapitate the cleric. Sure, the cleric might go down to 0 hit points, but that's a whole other bag of tricks and much easier to deal with than, hey, guess what, guys? Your only source of healing, and the person that is going to be able to revive you guys. I also think that it depends on the level of the players, right? As they progress, nope. Then because their power level is much higher, and they're able to absorb much more, and respond to it through items and spells and just their skill modifiers, everything, right? So I think that the higher up you go, to me, the more suspect it is if you're going to fudge a roll. But I'm not adamantly opposed to it like you are. So I just think that if you're going to do that, it needs to be very, very, very carefully used, because otherwise, what's the point? Just tell a story then.
Yeah. I'm realizing that I'm kind of a dick because
Yeah.
because we've got
The players
two,
speak!
Agreed.
we've got 2 of my players in here, and like, man, I don't pull punches. I'll feel bad about it, but like, I understand why you did that, and especially on like a homebrew, like this table we roll these, I probably just would have been like, hey, I'm not gonna roll on the crit table right now. Like, you're just downed. But I mean, it's hard to say
That's
that
fair.
when you're not. It's hard to say that when you're not in the moment.
Yeah.
I'm not here to judge what you did in that moment while you were trying
Well, and
to
see, and
ensure that your people had fun. I can't do that.
I would say this too. Even like, I'm also a dick. So like, no, seriously, because I'll say to them, like, I'll drop hints of like, maybe you shouldn't go there yet. Like, are you sure you want to do that? And then when they do, I'm like, all right. I'm not, if that's your my whole thing is that if it's a character choice and something they want to do, then that's on you guys. Like, if you guys want to go after the dragon in your 2nd level, go ahead. I'm not going to stop you. I might give you one warning that, hey, that's probably not the best idea, but go for it, dude. Like,
So I really liked how Spankster started out. He gave some examples, and he gave his basically. So let's do that. Let's see, and I want I want to jump
Yeah, I'm
over
not gonna
to.
do that.
You're not gonna do that, Jade. We'll get to you. We'll get to you in a second. It's all right. Yeah, Diego, please. Where do you stand on this? Give me some examples. Have you not? Has it happened to you and you've noticed it? Like, what's up?
So, you guys can hear me well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So my rule of thumb has always been that fudging a roll is a band-aid. Right. You fudge a roll when a situation has gone way out of hand, and you basically need to, if you're going to say is fudge a roll for a good reason, it's because it's the fun of the game is at stake, hypothetically, right? And so fudging a roll is a band-aid to when you are in that situation. And if you do fudge a roll, you should think about how did we end up in this situation? Did I make people roll skill checks that were unnecessary that then they ended up failing on? Did I put them in an unfair situation or against a, villain that was too strong? Like, what happened there that forced me to fudge a roll? Because again, it's a band-aid. It's not really the cause, right? If that makes sense. That's how I see. That's how I see them. So it's like you've made a previous error or a previous series of errors that have led to you needing to fudge a roll. Now, that being said, I've done it before because I'm a person and I've made those errors and I've put my players up against things that were too difficult for them to do, or I made them roll unnecessary checks that they failed at. You know, and or I thought they were doing something really cool and I was like, well, I'll just roll something just to see if the bad guy sees it, even though it's very unlikely, and the bad guy rolls like a nat 20 and you're like, damn it, I ruined their cool plan by rolling something really good. So it's like, maybe just don't roll it at all, just let them go forward, if you think it's more fun or more enjoyable for everybody. That being said, I think it's all really situational too. If you have players like Steven, you don't fudge rolls, but I think you do that also because your players like the fact that things go wrong. Like, we get enjoyment out of when our plans don't go wrong, and the having to like deal with the consequences of our maybe not as well thought out plan.
Do they ever don't go wrong, Barry?
They exactly, yeah. So, but we have fun with that, right? We're not like upset about
I've
it.
got great players, to be honest, but if you did get
And I
upset about
will
the dice going the wrong way, I probably wouldn't want to play with you.
I will say, Barry, like to that point, some of like my best D&D like table memories, whether it be as a player or as a DM, have been when things have gone terribly awry, and then it's just up to the creativity of the players around the table of, oh crap, now what?
Right. And so you might lose out on that opportunity if you fudge too much.
Right.
And so that's up to the DM to balance. But I do think that you have to establish a hierarchy of values in your game. And if your number one value is everybody enjoying themselves, then fudging rolls is like, you might have to do that to preserve that important part of the game. If your hierarchy is like whatever the dice say goes, then you are adamantly against it, right? And it's not necessarily about having fun all the time. It's about like, rolling dice. So I think that's a very personal choice, but I guess in conclusion, I've always seen it as a band-aid to fix further deeper problems that you might be having as a DM. And you can tell yourself, I'm just going to fudge this one time.
Slippery
but
slope.
like
Slippery slope,
you
bro.
should reflect when you do fudge. Even if it does end up fine and everybody has a good time and everything, you say, okay, why did I put them in a situation where I ended up having to fudge? So something to consider, I guess.
All right. Thank you so much. Reclaimer, or I'm sorry, calling you all your different names. Shade, my lovely Shade. This is our player point of view, and I highly value her point of view as a player. She's one of my players. Out of all my players, has probably made me grow the most as a DM. I would say that the two players here, both Barry Boy, which I'll also call him Diego sometimes. Sorry there, buddy. Barry
good.
Boy and Shade, they're two players that have challenged me a lot, and they've both made me grow as a DM in very different ways. But I value both of their opinions very highly, and it's why they're both here. And so Shade doesn't DM too much, but exactly why I wanted. Shade, how do you feel about dice fudging? And more importantly, can you tell when a DM fudges a roll?
No, you actually can't. Not unless they really telegraph it. I don't think that they should tell you either. Sometimes, like in a certain situation, the entire group's really invested in a certain outcome or a turn of the story, and if their plans fall to shit just because of one like lousy roll, there's no what reality can be whatever you want it to be. And then you gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss that shit. You do not tell them.
Never admit, otherwise the illusion is shattered.
Yeah.
So if you are gonna fudge, there's your hot tips.
I agree with that. I think you do really lose a lot if you tell them that you fudge something.
That said, if you advertise it as a hardcore, this world is very brutal, and then you're fudging dice rolls, that's kind of sus. But if you don't do that, you don't have to sit them down session 0 and be like, look, there are no stakes. That robs the fun. But you can let them win. You can let them win sometimes, especially like because Artificer didn't do a very good job with the CRs.
Wow. Earning that name, Shade. Earning that name.
So sometimes you're like, oh, these are level 1 guys. I'm gonna throw a couple dire wolves at them. They're like level whatever. They're CR what one half, and then they just tear apart your little level 1 buddies. And
Well, when there's 8 of them,
yeah.
Don't even get me started on swarms of insects, dude. Jesus.
Oh, okay. So Artificer, first off, caveat: the reason Shade says that is because Artificer has worked with Wizards for a long time as a playtester. In his illustrious career, so we get to blame him for all the bad decisions that Wizards has made, and we stand by that.
That's what we do here.
That's what we do here.
Keep going with that, buddy. See how that works out for you.
I'm gonna shut up now. Actually, I'm not. I'm either about to let Artificer go or I'm about to start ranting. Artificer, sure you don't want to?
Go. You go.
Aye, Captain.
I want to hear your spiel. So let it rip, dude.
All right, hold on. Okay.
Wait, how much time we got? Hold on. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah we got time.
Yeah, we got time. I think I gotta caveat this with, hey, don't feel bad. I'm not trying to trash you. Like, do your thing. If you're having fun, whatever. I'm just some guy on the internet, so fuck me at the end of the day. Because I think it is wholly wrong. I think it's a form of like really serious cheating. I think it destroys the integrity of the game. I think it maybe not openly destroys the trust between you and your players, but you're always gonna know. And it's a slippery slope. It's an addictive means of control and power. And I think it takes away player agency and dice. The whole point of the dice. I think that any of the reasons that you could submit to why you dice roll or why it's a good reason, there are legitimate workarounds. Whether it's your own creativity, whether it is admitting that you fucked up and then saying, hey guys, I screwed up. Let's rewind it really quick so I can adjust this and we can move forward. And I'll explain more on just a moment. Or if you're trying to make the story better or make your players happy or let them win, you're taking away one of the most important things. It's just a game, but one of the most important things in life, and that's failure. A game isn't that fun unless you can lose too. Like, where's the reward of victory unless you can fail horribly? Going through all these things, just very briefly. As far as Barry, he said a Band-Aid. So what have I done in the past, Barry, when I didn't balance an encounter right? Because that's one that I've heard many times. Is like, well, I didn't balance this encounter right, and I'm not going to let my players suffer because I didn't do it right. What did I do?
I mean, I've done it too before, right? Where you just say, hey, I fucked up. Let's take it back. Let's remove some of these enemies.
Let me change some of let me lower the damage output of this. Admit that you're wrong. And I guarantee you'll work twice as hard to make sure it's balanced properly the next time, and you wouldn't ever have to fudge that dice roll. And then your players trust you. And if you're not willing to admit a mistake to your players, well, then you've got some other problems to work on.
That's true.
Creative workarounds. Shade said, let them win. You can have a bad dice roll, and at the end of the day, I control 90% of this world. I can creatively come up with something that's going to give you a win, and that's if I really need to throw you a bone. If I just see that you're completely dejected and your spirit's broken and you don't want to play again, which first off, if you're that kind of player, you're a sore loser, and I probably don't want to play with you anyway, if we're being brutally honest. But if I really, really need to, I, as the DM, am creative enough to come up with something to throw you a bone and to help you out and to make that loss not so bad. You can get around fudging a dice roll with changing a DC, lowering a monster's health, things like this, which I think as a DM, that's not destroying the efficacy of the dice roll. The dice roll is there to keep you honest at the end of the day. All the other stuff you have control over anyway. So you can alter that. And that's a known thing. Every player sits down knowing you have control over the HP. You have control over every DC that you set for any of these ability checks. So you're not intrinsically undermining one of the core mechanics of this game. You want to tell a great story? There's a lot of games for telling a great story. You want to tell a story with a lot of chance, a lot of risk, where things can go horribly wrong, and then you have to creatively work to solve them, then play D&D. But aside from that, I think it's just kind of cheating and a cop out to being a better DM. And hang me up on my cross where I stand.
All right, so on you, Artificer.
No, I mean, I agree with the vast majority of that, right? And that's what because I do think that there is this slippery slope here that if you are not, Barry, like you said, reflective in what you're doing and why you're doing it, then it just becomes this manipulation and control thing.
Mental masturbation.
Yeah, and at that point, just write a book, right? Like because it's not at that point, it's not collaborative storytelling.
I'm gonna learn a lesson way better when in the session I had to be like, "Yo, I fucked up. Let me fix this, everybody. I'm so sorry." Than if I just went, "Yep, let me change this dice roll," and moved on. It's gonna stick in my brain. That's what's gonna make you reflect and become a better, my opinion.
Okay, when Artificer's done, I have a question then for you, Steven, regarding this.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
Artificer,
yeah,
take it away, sir.
I will quote you what I wrote in a book.
Oh shit.
oh fuck.
Everybody quiet. Hold on. The man's gotta speak.
And it goes a little something like this. And then I'll tell you where you can find it. Remember that the dice don't run the game, you do. Dice are like rules. They're tools to keep the action moving. At any time, you can decide that a player's action is automatically successful. You can also grant the player advantage on any likability check, reducing the chance of a bad die roll, foiling the character's plans. By that same token, a bad plan or unfortunate circumstance can transform the easiest task into an impossibility, or at least impose a severe disadvantage. So, with that aspect, that's like the middle path. There is one for straight rolling the dice and taking it as it is. Then you have the exact opposite, as what was discussed before, ignoring the dice whatsoever and just playing. I have been in all three aspects of that game. I run what they call the middle path. Okay. A lot of your questions that are asked, you can find in the DM's Guild in Chapter 8, the Dungeon Master's Guide. It's called Running the Game. There's a whole section in it and the roll of the dice. And there it explains the three different styles. As far as for me, I don't fudge rolls. I roll them out in the open. The only rolls that I don't roll in the open in any of my games is a death saving throw. and that I either roll just myself, or if the player is adamant about like they want the the fate of their character in their hands, they roll it behind. I have a little. I don't use a full. Well, I do use a full DM screen now because I can't remember shit anymore. I'm too old for that. So I, conditions and prone and all that crap. I can't keep track of anything. Anyway, but I usually have a little small DM screen that's all that's rolled back there is a death saving throw. That's it. Otherwise, I roll out on the battle map, in the table, out in front of everybody. So they know when I roll like a critical hit to kill somebody, hey man, it is what it is.
Huh?
Now, necessarily have I been 100% honest on a creature's hit point total, or their DC for a saving throw, or their ability to hit? I mean, I may have got an 18 on the die, but, if you got a 22 AC and it's only got, like a +2, hey, look what? Didn't hit, man. You know what I mean? Different factors can come at different times. As actually as far as the dice, nah, leave the dice as they are. You can adjust and control everything else in your game.
Yeah. Well said. You touched on a lot of stuff there, man. You touched on a lot of stuff that I agree with. You can control all of the other aspects, and I don't think you undermine the integrity of the game by changing those aspects. I'll tell you guys flat out, there's been many times where I've altered the things because, oh wow, this guy's going to be really really hard to take down. Let me take him down a notch. Or, oh, they're going to thrash through these guys immediately. Let me bump him up 10 HP. Although I only did that in my early days. I don't really do that anymore because I've gotten a lot better at balancing. And it's because I've owned up to fucked up. And I remember those. Sorry, Artificer, I cut you off.
No. It is. Balancing is hard to do.
Constant change.
Correct. And I do agree. I mean, the CR system is a very outdated system from second edition that has needed a revamp for 3 editions, 4 editions now. But that's just one of those. Kind of like the same thing. Okay. Only in certain situational things, and I really don't play with it. I never really did like the CR system. And the
Use it
other
as a
aspect,
guidepost.
kind of, yeah. I mean, you kind of put down some kind of rules, and it worked good with second edition because it actually balanced because of the way second edition was. But when you did the 3 and 3.5 and the 4 and the moving all the it needs a rework. Trust me, I don't disagree with that. But the other thing that I don't really care too much about is alignment. I haven't really cared about alignment. Clear back in
That's
the
fair.
70s and the 80s, man, I didn't pigeonhole somebody to play like lawful evil because, you were a devil. You can have good devils.
Yeah, there's good drow out there.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's it. Yeah, not everything is evil, so. Yeah.
There's at least one.
Hey,
Well.
my boy back here, Drizzy D. All right, excellent. Now I just kind of want to open the floor. If any of our viewers want to ask some questions,
Barry, you wanted to ask a question. I said after I was done.
You wanted to ask me a question, Barry.
Right? Yeah, I wanted to ask you a question.
Hit me with it, baby.
First of all, just to clarify, the reason I didn't really name any examples because I can't think of a time I fudged a dice roll. But in terms of your moral obligation to the game, right? I've been in a situation, and I'm sure you have too, Steven. I'm sure everybody's been in a situation where they had a really cool plan to, your players had a cool plan to sneak in somewhere, and they have to do, say, a stealth check. And or they have to jump this wall or jump over a gap or something. And in your notes, you've decided that the DC is a certain number, and they rolled like 1 or 2 below that number, and you say, I want to see him do it, So you say okay, and you let him go, right? And so there you're fudging the DC instead of the dice roll, which we discussed. There's all these aspects of the game that you get to control and that you can fudge around with. You don't have to mess with the dice, which I agree with. But from the moral integrity of the game, what's the difference between bumping up a dice roll 1 or 2 or dropping down the DC 1 or 2? Other than your players don't know that you did it.
I already control the DC. I do not control the outcome of the dice.
But you're controlling the outcome of.
I will also say
what,
that
what happened.
I will also say that I haven't really done that, and I dox me as a DM really quick. I come up with DC ability checks pretty much on the fly when you guys do stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean, there's a reason that Judo broke his leg when he was trying to climb up that tree. There's a reason your plan failed when you tried to drop a bunch of boulders on those guys. You know what I'm saying? And that's just me. I think that it's definitely a fine line to walk, but I don't. The only thing I can really say is at the end of the day, I don't control the dice roll, but I do control the difficulty of these tasks, and the dice should keep you honest. But yeah, I mean, I will say it's definitely shades of gray in certain areas. Want to start altering.
So
But yeah,
Pray I do not alter them further.
those are those are just my alternatives to DMs who have expressed their reasons for fudging. Where I think that you don't need to fudge the dice roll. You can just alter the world that you already created.
I figured it out. The perfect strategy is to fudge all you want and then go on a Q&A online and then like be adamantly against fudging dice.
Boom.
Oh, yes.
Boom. I've been
The
ousted.
ultimate gaslighting.
I've been ousted 100%.
No, I think though, Barry, your question is a
That's
good
really
one
good.
because honestly, at the end, mechanically and talking about the spirit of the game, if you are altering hit points or proficiency or ability scores, whatever it might be, in the heat of the moment, it's basically the same thing as fudging a die roll, right? So if you're
yeah, you
saying
just
like,
don't have to
hey,
deal with the moral conundrum.
right. I mean, it's essentially, but as you're preparing an encounter, you're preparing something, and I agree with you, Stephen. I also kind of just make up DCs. Obviously you have a framework that you work against, right? Like but
How
it's not
hard is
like
this
you're like,
gonna
okay,
be?
well this time it's a 17 and next time it's a 13, whatever. But I also do the same thing because you never know. Like you cannot come up with a difficulty check for whatever your players are going to do because your players are going to do something that you never thought of. Inevitably, that's what's going to happen. And there's no way you can prepare for that except to just kind of have a general understanding. But if you're saying like, okay, well, this creature's AC was going to be 18, rather than, fudging this or fudging that, I'm just going to lower it to 16 in the middle of this battle. And I think you're doing the same thing. I think, either way, you're kind of betraying the spirit of the game.
I would say
Beforehand, sure, reskin things all you want, reskin monsters all you. This orc has more of the stats of an ogre. Okay, that's fine. Whatever, right? Do whatever you want to do, but I don't think you should be changing it in the moment.
I would agree. And if you do say, "Hey guys, I fucked up. I need to adjust this."
Right. Or you could do something in like you said before, Stephen. Hey, the orc drops his shield. Right. So now all of a sudden his AC is down 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Your
Your hit caused him to be dazed because you did so much damage. You can do a lot of things. Shay, do you want to say something?
The line though, because like if you have say a pyromancer, someone that's really good at fire blasting spells, and he's just mowing through your cold damage based campaign, and you're just like, I'm tired of him icing everyone. well, reverse icing. I'm tired of him vaporizing all the foes. So I'm gonna start throwing in fire immune, like smoke mephits and whatever else is immune to fire. Fire elementals, fire giants, dragons, demons. You get me though, but like, and then you start adding this stuff in, and this was not planned at the start of the game. This wasn't planned at the beginning of the campaign. You're just like between sessions going in, and I'm gonna make this a little bit harder than I had planned originally.
But see,
Where's the line?
well, so I would say my pushback on that is that that's a campaign arc and not an encounter, right? And if you have a smart villain, they're going to adjust to the PC's tactics. Like they're just going to. If the PCs can do it, why wouldn't a villain do it? And so like I kind of have a consistent threat in some of the campaigns that I run, that some of the higher level villains are watching the PCs because they're presenting a direct adversary to their best interests. And so as the campaign goes along, I begin to build a PC killing party that the bad guys are putting together. It's a party designed specifically to go after the weaknesses of the PCs. And but to me that's smart. That's what a villain would do. And if they've gotten along this far, they would employ smart tactics like that. But that's not changing a hit point, total in the middle of an encounter in order to make it easier or harder.
And I can agree with the story mechanic there. Let me just say this for you, Shade. I got really tired of you being able to deflect everything. What did I have to do?
Acid bears.
Fucking acid bear. Well, no, and not just that the acid, and not just the acid bears, but I'm coming up
Non-magical acid bears.
non-magical acid bears. And I'm coming up with lots of terrain things that you're gonna have to deal with, and smarter positioning of my enemies and such. So where do you draw the line? I think you draw the line in the heat of the moment and with a lack of transparency. Like, what did I tell you when I was doing all this? Because we were talking about, maybe like it came on the table. Oh, should you have this ability? Nerfing, da 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 da. I decided I'm not going to punish you. I'm just going to get better as a DM and create more complex and difficult encounters. But
I'm not complaining about that.
No, and I know you're not. But I'm just using it as the most recent example. I did that with transparency. I think that my issue with the whole thing is transparency. I think that's my main
totally
issue
fair.
with it all. Is if it's out in the open, then whatever. But when you're doing it behind everyone's back because you think it's gonna make things better, you're just kind of being a cheater.
I disagree fundamentally, but like I don't I'm fine with rolling with things as they happen. Like obviously, or I would have quit your game a long time.
You're good at taking hits for sure.
But like I think there's a time and a place for bullshitting.
I think my point is that you fudge a lot of things as a DM. And so at some point, and you can't really be open like, hey guys, I'm going to change the DCs on the fly for
Right.
things. I'm going to change the HPs of things. But those are all decisions I make all the time. Like if they're on their 7th round of combat, they're very healthy. They're doing a good job, but it's just like a super grindy battle and nobody's having fun. Shoot, man, I'll I tell myself like, all right, within this next round, we're going to wrap things up. Like, because we're not having fun, right?
But when your player rolled, did you change the health so they'd kill it? When your player did the DC and the one you had in your mind and they failed it, did you change it at that moment so that it would acquiesce? I think that's the line, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Well, that's what I'm suggesting. That's what I'm saying. Like, people do that. I mean, I do that. Like, the DC was a 15, but they rolled a 14, and I'm kind of like, you know what? It's not really that hard of a thing to do. Maybe 15 was a little high. Sure.
You can use stages of success and failure. All right, so the DC in my mind was a 15. You got a 14. All right, you almost get it. Give me another roll to potentially save your ass. I do that a lot too.
Yeah.
But isn't that like? No, it's kind of a more convoluted way of.
It is and it isn't because I'm still honoring the dice. Right?
But they're still inventing a second thing that wasn't originally planned in the moment in response to what they rolled.
I can see your
Well,
point
I
too.
mean,
Yeah.
So you're doing a form of fudging. We're all going to do a form of fudging because the situations are always going to be unexpected.
I would, yes, I would agree. It is a form of it, but at the end of the day, like, honor the dice roll. I mean, I see what you're saying, and I don't really have like talk around because I'm not gonna say I'm like holier art thou and I am rigid and never. No, I'm flexible and I work with it, but I'm never gonna outright undermine what those dice did. If you fail, you're gonna suffer in some way. If you succeed, then you're gonna succeed in some way. Shades of Grey, the best
yeah.
I can
I
say.
mean,
I'm learning a lot here too. Don't get me wrong.
trust me. Steven's rabbit folk couldn't jump up 10 feet on a tree in my one shot.
And I busted my fucking face on that tree.
A fucking rabbit that's fucking 4 feet tall couldn't jump to the 10-foot mark. It was awesome.
He really should have been able to, but nope, he broke his little rabbit nose. So I mean, yeah, so at the end of the day, you can creatively work around fudging the roll. Is it another form of fudging?
I mean,
I can't say that it's not, but those are things you have control of anyway. That's really my only argument is I control all those things. I don't control what the outcome of the dice is. So I try to honor that, especially in the moment. I might give you an opportunity to or fail if I really wanted you to, but that's rare too. I think the dice are what honest game on it. Otherwise, it's just. I mean, it's a game of make believe, so it's funny to say. Otherwise, it's just a game of lies. But to mentally masturbate everyone at the table, there's got to be some line that we draw in the sand where it's like, hey, what's
Oh,
what?
100%.
You know?
Yeah, no. My only point is that like gonna fudge rolls, which I agree with. Probably shouldn't fudge rolls. You are going to probably fudge something else to account for those rolls. And that's that there's shades of gray in there. Like if you do it and you also need to reflect a lot on why you're doing it. Is it because you want to win and beat your players and not let their good character choices like work out
Parsley.
because you have a plan? Or or the opposite where like you always want them to have fun and like you need to be keenly aware on why you're doing it. I think the reflecting is a really big part of what you're doing.
Without a doubt, and that's kind of my whole point. Get better as a.
And I think that's true also because even though I'm not as hard lined as you are on it, Stephen. I do think that it should be incredibly rare that you do it. I mean, in my 20 years of DMing, I can think of 2 times that I've done it, and those are my 2 examples. So even though I'm not 100% against it, I'm not. There's by no stretch of the imagination am I like, yeah, whatever, just make up the die rolls. If they want to hit, they hit. If they don't, they don't. Like, I don't think that should, because again, it's a game, and at the end of the day, everyone's there to play that game, not just be told a story.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and I guess here's all I can say. One of the reasons I'm not gonna sit here and just be like, if you fudge rolls, you're a piece of. I'm not going to. Players are having fun, and that's how you do it. And great. I personally, my opinion, again, I'm just a fucking dude on the internet. Think that you can creatively work having to. And the heat of the moment, if you've got to, I guess, whatever you need. But like Barry said many times, reflect heavily. I think that as a DM, a lot of DMs will say, "Well, we're here to tell a story." As a DM, I'm a big story-driven DM. At the end of the day, I'm a conflict creator, and my players and their roles tell the story. And I feel like that if I alter too much, or if I alter, really, I've gotten to the point now in my DMing where if I alter almost anything, I'm doing injustice to that story and what the true outcome should be. All I gotta say. You guys have at it though.
So the CR system's borked.
That's also true. Yeah.
I will agree with
Yeah.
that. I will agree with
I mean, yeah. I mean, and like new players ask me that, or like new DMs are doing that, and I tell them just kind of use it as a basis, okay?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, because you know, a lot of low CR things, I can kill a party of 6 level, you know, like six level characters with like 5 shadows. Yeah, you'd be dead in like 3 rounds.
Agreed. Transparency. That's always my go-to. Like, hey, I fucked up.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, but you know, like I said, you know, the dice don't run your game. You do. The dice are just like rules. Some rules you allow, some rules you don't. Some rules can be altered.
So I think the conclusion we've come to is just like all things in D&D. Run your game your way. Lots of shades of gray.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I think Barry does bring up a good point. Like, you know, you should know why you're doing what you're doing, right? So if you're changing whatever it is you're changing, you should know why, and you should know moving forward what not to do. And because I think that makes you a better DM. That makes the table a better table. Like everyone should be, you know, players learn from their mistakes. DM should learn from their mistakes too.
Yes,
And
and if DM does not learn from their mistakes, then you move to a different table because that's just a shit show, and you just move on from there.
Agreed.
We're gonna wrap this up in about 10 minutes. Anyone else have anything they want to touch on?
Oh, boo. I had so many questions to ask people, or questions from the audience, or like,
I
what
thought that
are
Artie
things
was
we
going to
should
have more hot
fudge?
takes.
I did too. I was kind of surprised. I thought he was going to be like, I always fudge.
every roll is a lie.
No.
So I have a question for my two players. So knowing how I handle the game, how do you guys feel?
It's terrifying sometimes because we're at the mercy of the dice. Like there is no God in heaven, and no one's coming to save us.
I mean, to be fair, most of the okay. So most of my players know when it's gonna be a very interesting encounter.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're going to be like, well, I hope everybody's got their backup character, you know, and they'll joke around and do all this and that, and then then they'll look at me and I'll be like, look, man, you don't look at me. I'm not going to kill you. I'll point to my dice and be like, those are the ones that are going to kill you, not me.
This one's my special player killing die.
Oh, seriously,
this one's just for clerics.
I seriously, if I really want to hit somebody, I have a set of dice that I've had my whole time. It's an original set of dice.
Hey guys,
yes,
it's okay to not fudge rolls as long as you play with loaded dice.
Oh, hey, I mean, look, I had
How many times you been kicked out of Vegas, Artificer?
More than one.
I used to work. I can't. No. Let's not get into that story.
I plead the fifth.
So, like, about in the mid '90s at a convention.
Oh shit.
There was definitely a player that was. I mean, doing it long enough, you can do maths real quickly. And every time, like a certain player at a convention, and we were rolling a small campaign for the epic. They call them epics now, but we used to call them convention. Anyway, doing the math like real quick, he was rolling like near to almost max damage, and almost like rolling an obscene like 17 on a die on average to hit. So yeah, and with not anybody like really physically seeing his dice. So yeah.
Yeah, that's so there's something like kind of jumping into our community game and stuff like that. Like that's why we have everyone jump on D&D Beyond and connect the Beyond 20 extent. There's been instances where digital games, like a player's computer went down, they were just using their phone and they were rolling dice. And, you know, I trust the person, but as a DM, like I just couldn't trust the dice rolls. I just couldn't. It ended up leaving a bad taste in several players' mouth. Um, and so that's gotta be transparency, man. The only dice roll that's private at my table is a death save, and the player privately rolls it to me, so me and the player are both aware. So there's still accountability.
Right, and that's why I roll the death save, and the player, I can either roll it or the player can roll it, behind my thing. So it's just me and them that know it.
Yeah, that's
See, that's so interesting to me because like I roll privately, and it's just an old habit. Like it's not because I fudge it or anything like that. I just do it. And part of it is because sometimes I roll just to freak them out, and and I can't do that if they know every time I'm rolling and for what. But all of my players, and this was just kind of decided upon by them. This wasn't something that we ever discussed. They all roll their death saves openly on the table. Like, hey guys, it's my death save. Check it out. Like, so they all know.
that's most people.
Yeah.
Yeah, most people do that.
My goal is to ratchet up that tension because it takes away a slight bit of metagaming. Even if you're not consciously metagaming, you know that dude just succeeded on one of his saves. You don't have to worry about him for that round.
No, that's
I don't care what anybody says. People metagame. I don't care.
100% they do. Yeah.
So
It's not avoidable.
So not knowing what the death saves is, I don't know. How do you guys feel about it, Barry? And
I kind of like that, honestly.
Does it make it more tense and scarier?
So like, remember when I did it and I rolled 2 failed death saves and no one knew?
Yeah.
I spent 2 more rounds rolling successful death saves, like knowing that one fuck up was the end.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Shade had a full count. All right.
So
Yeah.
my girlfriend's standing behind me, and she plays in our regular Sunday campaign, and she's like, no, we need to know the death saves. No.
Yeah, that's metagaming right there.
It takes off pressure. It's
exactly.
Like, okay, we can get
The
to them in
healer
time.
walked past me as I was sitting at 2 death saves.
No, I like that though.
I love Judo's reasoning for that. It's because I always ask a warm-up roleplay question, and one of the questions early on was, out of the party, who would you save first? And it was he chose Barry. And so he went to Barry. He deliberately like passed the other two who were down before Barry and went to save Barry first. And I loved that.
No, because see, at our table we don't talk hit points either, right? We say bloodied and staggered. And so that only makes sense. I think I might start doing that, to be honest. I like that a lot.
Yeah. If you want to really ratchet up the tension, the only people that know death saves, I mean, so every time somebody says like, no, we roll in the open, well, do you allow them to tell each other hit point? Oh, no, we don't do that. Then why the hell would you do a critical death save then out in the open? Because then I don't care who you are, you're going to metagame because the one person knows that, hey, they got 2 successes, it'll be okay. I can wait a couple of rounds to go heal them.
Yep.
The perfect thing for me at one of my tables was that I had an actual doctor that played with the group. Okay, and I said, and it's like, well, how's they look? I'm like, you can't tell from this distance. Well, they have like 2 death saves, and the doctor's like, look, I can't assess you from 60 feet away and say that you're almost on death's door. No offense. I have to physically go over and examine you, okay?
100%.
He's like, so it doesn't work in real life? I wouldn't think it would work in the game either, so.
Well, that would be an interesting mechanic, though. Like, do a health check to figure out how many deaths. Like,
I mean, I'd say if you guys ran up on someone and did one of your, because I allow a free interaction, and did one of your medicine checks, I'd give you like an estimate. Be like, yeah, they're gonna die very soon, or they're holding on. Like, I would definitely work with you guys on that one if you wanted to use that.
That'd be interesting.
I also carry your failed saves until your next long rest. That's kind of brutal as well, and you guys don't know, and you guys won't know if they failed or succeeded. But like, the way I look at it is, if your buddy, think about it, you're in combat, and one of your buddies just drops like a sack of potatoes after taking a hit, you're not gonna be like, you're not gonna be like, yo, they're probably all right. I'm gonna keep fighting. Nah, dude, you're gonna immediately rush to their aid to try to help them because you care about that. I mean, I'm assuming that you care about that person. You care about
Yeah.
that person. You know.
But depending on the situation, right? You might also be like, I gotta take care of this bad guy. Otherwise, I can't do anything.
if they're right
I
in
might
front of
die.
you, if they're right in front of
Yeah.
you, sure. But like that's situational. But you don't know the severity of your friend. You're gonna get to them as soon as you can. Whether you have to dispatch this dude in front of you to get to them, or you're gonna do your best to do it. And that was like my whole goal on that. Spankster, I sent you the Sevs brew. Go through it, homie.
Yeah, no, I've been
kinds of
reading
gross
through
stuff.
it. I've had it open in my browser since you sent it to me, and I've glanced through it a couple of different times. I haven't gone through it line by line yet, though.
All
Yeah,
kinds of
but
gross
yeah.
stuff in there. All kinds of gross
Yeah.
stuff in there.
Yeah.
Did I put my saving throws medicine check thing in the resources? If not, I'll throw it in there.
Yeah, please do.
Okay.
And hey,
So yeah.
anything else you guys want to add in? Because I think that's probably going to be our time for tonight.
Yeah.
I
To
got a
answer your
funny
question,
story
Steven,
actually.
I
If I
like
can, Artificer story reminded me. A while back, this was like probably 10, 15 years ago, and this was one of the times where no rolls were fudged. Party died. They were taken prisoner. They woke up. They were slaves. Blah blah blah. They had nothing. Right. They couldn't see in the dark. They were in caves. And I had a friend of mine who he was like, well, I'm going to try to start a fire, blah, blah. I'm going to use my toga thing to start a fire. I'm like, all right. I'm like, here's what we'll do. And I said, well, how are you going to hold it? He goes, well, I'm going to hold it in between two rocks while it's burning. And I was like, that doesn't sound very realistic, dude. I said, here's what we'll do. If you can do that for 1 minute in real life with a t-shirt, I will let your character do it. And so we went out to my front porch and he got two rocks and I brought a t-shirt out and he lit it on fire and tried to hold it in between the two rocks. So he couldn't do
Burn
it,
the
obviously.
Shit out of his hands.
But so we went back inside and started to play, right? And I was married at the time. My wife the next morning comes in, wakes me up, and she's like, what the fuck is this burned t-shirt doing on the front porch?
We're gonna have to do we're gonna have to do a stream just on great stories.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. And I'm sorry, Barry, which question?
Oh, I enjoy the death save being secret. Yeah, I think that's good. I don't know how to explain it, but when we all roll in the open, there's like a certain amount of tension when the DM rolls and you're watching the die spin and you don't know what number it's gonna land on, and then it lands and like everybody reacts at the same
Like
time.
sigh
That you just yeah, or like, oh fuck.
Everyone starts crying.
But you just don't get that when you roll behind a screen, or maybe you do. I don't know. It just feels different.
Also, you guys see my modifiers for everything.
Yeah, that's true.
I remember one time you guys were like, you started a fight with someone pretty strong, and Jake took an arrow to the back because he called this chick a bitch, and he was like, she's probably on her moon flow, and he was like, she was on her moon flow, and she didn't take kindly to that, and it was like a plus. They were like level 1, and it was like a +4 or +5 to hit, and he was like, a +4 to hit? What is this? And I was like, yeah, you guys are barking up the wrong fucking tree right now. Like, absolutely. I think I don't know. I really like having everything in the open. It fucks with y'all a lot.
Yeah.
And on that note, everyone, thank you so much for joining us. Let's
Thanks
go
for
around.
having us.
Yeah, dude, absolute pleasure. Smankster, we're gonna have to get you on here again. It was great having you.
Yeah.
Shade, thank you so much for joining us. You're having a rough day, and I'm glad that you came and hung out with us. Appreciate you.
It's a good nightcap.
Good.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, but maybe.
It's on that cap.
Artificer, your infinite knowledge and wisdom is always appreciated. And Diego, man, I always love you. Thank you guys all so much. If you want to go around and say goodnight, I'd love that.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Keep those booties tight, everybody. Make sure you do your squats. Yeah, good night.
Wait, do we have to do the standard? Don't forget to spade and neuter your pets. There you go.
I mean, the price is wrong, bitch.
I want to leave a Easter egg
Oh,
for
gee.
someone that might make it this far when she watches this later.
Ah.
Good night, Ratty. That's
Ooh.
it.
I love it. I love it. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Keep playing pretend. Keep rolling that them dice, and keep honest if you can. Night.